Welcome to my video tutorial. Today we're going to look at the free lesson in Learn to Draw Unit 1. The title of the lesson is Sample Lines, Contour, and Blind Contour Drawing. And we're going to learn a little bit about lines. One thing I tell my students, I have a number of private students, one of the things I emphasize the most is once you learn a few really basic techniques that you would think were very simple things once you get started with them, your drawing is going to be completely turned around. I have a couple of young students right now who are 11 and 12 years old who thought, oh, I can't do this, I can't do this. And within a few lessons and a little bit of practice, their drawing has just taken an amazing jump in what they're able to do with their abilities. So let's take a look at some very simple things, and this hopefully will help you to start moving forward in your confidence and your ability to draw. Now the first thing is we're going to take a look at what is a line. Now in geometry, a line is something that connects two points, and if I put a point here on my paper and another point here, then naturally, if I draw something that goes from one to the other, and this is without a ruler, but this is a line. Now, I often tell my students, use your ruler because it's so much nicer and neater. So let's put a couple more points on, and let's see the difference between the first line and the second line. Oh, and my ruler is slipping because I'm trying to record this while I'm doing the examples. Okay, so there are two lines. Now, if I ask you to draw a line, get a piece of paper, get a pencil. Don't use a marker. I'm only using it to make it easier for you to see what I'm doing. So grab a pencil and a piece of paper, and I want you to put 2 points anywhere on your paper. And this marker is not going to last long, so I'm going to have to switch to another color. That'll make it more fun. All right, so while I'm doing that, you've drawn your line, I hope. So now I'm going to draw a line also. Surprise! Did any of you do that? Well, you very well could have. Did any of you do this? Is that a line? Oh yeah, that's a line too. How about is that a line? It certainly is. If we look at the definition of lines, it is connecting 2 points. It's also a path created by a pencil or other marking tool. Those are all lines. Now, some of them are straight lines and some of them are curved lines, but they are all lines. Surprise! So if any of you created a line that was anything other than straight across, good for you. You're thinking outside the box. That's part of what we do with these video lessons. We want to think about drawing in different ways. We also have to learn to see in different ways, and in further lessons we will definitely learn how to look at our subjects and our drawing very differently than you probably think you would need to in order to draw. The thing we need to take a look at is the definition of different kinds of lines. A geometric line is a line that goes straight from one point to another. It has very sharp, very precise edges to it. Whereas these more curvy, crazy lines are called organic lines. Now, organic things you would see more in nature. The organic shapes of trees and flowers and rocks and water and clouds, those are organic. Very different from geometric. Now, we're also going to take a look at other types of lines, and these are determined by direction. Now, here we have horizontal lines. They are going from the horizon line, from one end of the horizon to the other. We have diagonal lines, which are going on a slant from top to bottom, slanted. And then we have vertical lines, which are straight up and down. Looks like the trunk of a tree almost, the beginning of a tree trunk. So those are different kinds of lines. Now, we can also make different thicknesses of lines. So if we went over to this horizontal line and we decided we would either use a wider tool with a wider point, or we thicken them up, they are still lines. They're just a little more interesting. That one's getting wider as we go, maybe from narrow to wide. Still a line, but by varying it, it makes it more interesting. So what I want you to try to do now is produce lots of different lines. Have them go in different directions, different thicknesses, geometric, organic, and use different pencils. Try out your new pencil set if you have one. We'll be talking about pencils and the thicknesses and what all the things on the side of your pencils mean as we go on to other lessons. But try out your pencils and see what they do. Find different pencils around the house, not just a number 2 school pencil. And practice making different kinds of lines. Okay. So here are just some of my horizontal, vertical, diagonal lines. Hopefully, as you practiced, you began to see that by using different pencils, you also get different results. Now, by using different pressure on your pencils, you can also obtain different results. If you and I don't have a pencil, I want you to see it. If I used a pencil, you couldn't see it. But if you go very lightly, you get a different result than if you put some pressure on. So those are different ways of handling lines. Now, lines are the basic anatomy of all drawing. If you're not familiar with lines and different ways to render them, then you really aren't going to be able to draw, because every drawing is made up of lines. We're going to talk about creating 2- and 3-dimensional objects with lines. I have a whole lesson just on perspective and 3D and 2D and all of that, and we will do that further on if you stick with the lessons. But let's just continue on and see what else we can do with lines. Everybody has their own comfort zone, their own ways of moving their hands, and right here I will have a little test for you to try and see which way your hands naturally move. Well, that was messy. Sorry about that. All right. So when you're drawing a line, which way does your hand move? Do you naturally feel comfortable going this way? Try a few strokes. Move your hands in this direction. Does that feel comfortable? Or do you feel more comfortable going in this direction? Whichever one, whether it's number 1 or number 2, that helps you to see a little bit more about your own natural hand direction. How about lines, curvy and organic lines? Do you feel more comfortable moving in that direction, or is this more comfortable to you? 1 or 2. Again, that shows you what's a little bit more of a comfortable, natural hand movement for you. Change the slant of your lines. Try making different shapes, maybe even some circles. Does that seem more comfortable to you, or are you more comfortable going this way? And the reason we do this is because finding what's naturally comfortable to you will help you to become better at what you're drawing. You need to work in your comfort zone. If you're not working with your natural hand movements, you're pushing your hands to do something that's not natural for them, and it's going to make your drawing a lot more uncomfortable and clumsy. Now let's try some compound curves. If we're going to start this way and then go that way, is that more comfortable? Or are you more comfortable moving in that direction? When you do circles, are you more comfortable going counterclockwise? Clockwise? Again, this will show you which is your natural hand movement and which slant might be better for you. Some people are more comfortable going left to right, some going right to left, but you want to use whenever possible your most comfortable hand position, even if it means moving your paper around to make that happen. Okay, finally, next we're going to take a look at something called contour drawing. Now, contour drawing is basically just drawing the outside edges of a figure or an object, or if you're doing a scene, it's drawing the outlines and the shapes and the edges, but it doesn't show all the details. So it's a really simple form of drawing, and it's a good place to start to just help you to get an idea of how to look at an object and the kinds of things you might want to draw. I'm going to give you a second to go and grab a mug from your counter and a nice piece of paper and your pencils. And what we're going to do, you can pause me if you want and then come back. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at the edges on our object. So this cup, if I'm looking at the edges, I have this oval shape, I have the side edge and the handle. It's coming down and up this edge. So those are my basic edges or contours. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to draw the contours while looking at this. I'm going to move it over here a little bit. And we're going to try, now remember I'm drawing one-handed, so I know that you'll be very gracious with me. I'm drawing with one hand and I am trying to film with the other because my photographer is nowhere in sight and I really need to get this online so you can watch the lessons. They were originally just instructions, but I began to think maybe it would be a lot more helpful if you could see somebody else doing it also. Oh, please forgive this. It really is all over the place when I can't even hold my paper down, but it'll give you the idea. And then hopefully in the future I will have my photographer back and we'll be able to do this with both hands. Now this is one-handed drawing, so if I can do this one-handed, you can do it with two. So I'm just drawing the outside edges, and I'm going to fix that up a little bit, the outside edges of that mug. Now remember, I can do better when I'm using both hands. But that's the contours. Now, if I were going to try a different method, this one is really kind of fun. It's a contour drawing, but it's called a continuous line contour. And with that, what I do is I draw the mug without lifting my pencil. I'm going to start maybe over in this area of the mug and I'm going to work my way around however makes sense so that I don't have to lift the pencil. So I guess maybe I'll start over on this side. And once I begin, I'm going to do my best not to lift my drawing tool at all as I draw the contours. So I have to plan ahead a little bit and think about it. How am I going to do this to make it work? Whoops, sorry, I did lift it, but that's because my pen is sliding and my paper is sliding. I need another hand. Forgive me. Try your best not to lift. I have to lift just a little bit so I can hold down the paper with my hand. All right, so there is a continuous line drawing. So that's kind of fun to do. It's a really good exercise to get a number of objects and try to do just the contours that you see. Now, if this were going to be a real drawing, I would add lots more details. I would be closing this off. I would be putting shading in where it's darker, and I'd do a lot of different things to it. I'm just scribbling quickly to show you. But if I started adding things, then this is no longer a contour drawing. Now, I'm changing it. So, anyway, that's just the basics of contour drawing. We have something fun to try next. Drawing. And blind contour drawing is done when you're looking at your object but not at your paper. So if I were going to try to draw that mug again and not look at my paper at all, it's good to kind of hide your project so you can't look no matter how much you really want to. It's kind of just fun to see what you come up with. Whoa, awesome. Okay, so one of the tricks that helps with this is to keep your eye on the line that you're following around. And as your eye moves around the object, let your hand move with it. And that's kind of to train you to slow your hand down and not draw what you think you see, but instead to draw what you actually are seeing. Oh, awesome. You'll find that you really have a lot of fun with this one if you're not a perfectionist, because it's one of those exercises where you never know what you're going to end up with. But it's really, really good training, trust me. And the more you do it, the more you slow your eye down and follow the object with your eye and your hand at the same speed, the more interesting it's going to be, and it might even come out looking like the object. Well, I hope you've had a lot of fun with this lesson, and I would really encourage you to keep practicing this when you start to feel like you understand it and you're comfortable with it. I would challenge you to go back and sign up for some of the lessons. You only have to take 3 at a time, so you can work through 3 concepts, and then if you feel confident, you can move on. The nice part about these lessons is you don't have to take more than you can handle, and there's no time limit. You can take them at your own speed so that you can go back and continually repeat them if you like until you really, really feel comfortable. The other fun thing is that you can upload them online so that you can see them and other students who are doing them at the same time can also see them. And you can critique each other's if you like, or encourage each other, which I would really want you to do. Encourage each other, because whenever you start out on something new, it's always hard because you haven't done it before. But within a really short time, I'll tell you, unless you have absolutely no coordination at all, you're going to have some fun with this and you're going to notice improvement. And even if you have no coordination, if you keep practicing, you're going to see improvement. So I hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I hope you come back for more. Thanks for joining me. Bye.